Hey, it's Robert. Thanks for dropping in. Today I'll be pulling from the archives again and make another of my mother's dishes. It's called, and pardon the pronunciation, ginatang hipon, and it uses these prawns, or hipon. Mom would have used head-on ones, still in their shells, but I'm going with these that are already prepped. Partly because they're less work, and partly because my wife and daughter don't really know how to handle shells and heads. The end flavor won't be as intensely prawny, but it'll still be delicious. To accent the flavor of the prawns, I'm going to use a tried and true trio of garlic, roughly minced, onion, chopped, and ginger, cut into thick matchsticks. Some other recipes I've seen call for the ginger to be minced, but I'm leaving them kind of big, like my mom's. My dad likes to taste the ginger, but he doesn't like to actually eat it, so mom always left them big so they could be picked out. And I guess I'm just kind of used to it that way. For veg, I've got a handful of beans. Ideally, they'd be Chinese long beans, or even better, sea beans, but my local store only had string beans, so that's what I'm going with. I've also got one chili. It's a serrano. Mom uses jalapeno because authentic Filipino chilies are impossible to find here. You can also swap in Thai bird's eye chilies if you want more heat. For additional veg, I've got a red pepper. This isn't something Mom would have added, but I like the pop of color. And it tastes good too. I've also got a Chinese eggplant, which I'll slice into discs. A lot of people don't like eggplant because it can be a little bitter. An easy way to fix this is to sprinkle it with some salt, then leave it in the fridge for a bit. The salt will draw the bitter juice out of the eggplant, and then all you have to do is blot it off before cooking. For the sauce, I'll be using coconut cream. This is basically coconut milk, but with way less water and way more fat. Think of it as supercharged coconut milk. Speaking of, I'll also be using 1 can of regular coconut milk, because coconut cream by itself would be too much. Finally, to add some salt as well as umami, I've got some fish sauce. A couple of tablespoons to start, and I'll add more if needed. And that's it. Time to get cooking. I'm going to start by adding the aromatics. That's the garlic, onion, and ginger to my wok that's got a bit of oil in it. I'll let this fry for a few minutes, just until it gets nice and fragrant, and the onions start softening. I don't want to brown anything. This is looking pretty good, and the fish sauce can now go in. If you make this at home, and I strongly encourage you to give it a try, I advise you to turn on your hood vent before adding the fish sauce, unless you like the smell of fermented fish wafting through your house. Alright, next, the coconut milk can go in, followed by the cream. And you can see there just how thick the coconut cream is. It's basically the solids that floats at the top of the can of coconut milk. I'll drop the heat to low and let this come to a bare simmer. The sauce has been simmering for a few minutes. It's kind of hard to see, but it's not quite where I want it yet. My mom, and in fact a lot of Filipino cooks, would just crank this to high heat to reduce it. While that's certainly faster, it also ends up breaking the sauce, and you end up with a pool of oil floating on top. Some cooks actually like that, but I'm from the school that thinks broken sauces are a bad thing, so I'm taking it more slowly. The sauce is reduced a bit more, and I can now add the chili, as well as the green beans. These will take the longest to cook, so I'll give them a minute head start. Next in is the eggplant. I blotted off the bitter juices that came out while they were in the fridge. The beans and eggplant are about half cooked, so I can now add a bit more seasoning in the form of freshly cracked pepper. After which I can add the red pepper. And the prawns. I'll stir this around, then turn the heat up slightly, and bring this back to a simmer. If everything works out, by the time the prawns are nice and pink, all the veg will be done too. The prawns are done, and I also tested an eggplant, and it was fork tender and not mushy. It's time for a final taste. Delicious. All it needs is a splash more fish sauce, and it's ready. And here we go. Ginatang hipon, or prawns cooked in coconut milk. Cooked very closely to my mother's style. This is a powerhouse of a dish. The prawns are plump and sweet, plus the convenience of not having to peel them is a bonus, in my opinion anyways. Of course, if you want to take the traditional route and cook them with the shells and heads on, that's only going to make them better. The sauce is rich and intensely coconutty. No added sugar needed. That coconut cream adds everything it needs. And the veg are perfectly cooked. The beans are snappy, the eggplant fork tender, the pepper soft and silky, It's an amazing bowl of food. The only thing that could make it better is a big bowl of rice. Thanks for watching. This was a fun throwback recipe to make, and pretty darn tasty to boot, so I hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to show your support for this channel, please remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'll see you next week.